Single dad is mocked for his old truck. A woman steps in, she owns the dealership. Riverside Plaza parking lot, Saturday afternoon under the scorching Texas sun. A 1995 Ford pickup sits dying among rows of gleaming luxury cars. Daniel's calloused hands shake as he lifts the hood, sweat dripping onto rusted metal. Inside the cab, 8-year-old Emma shrinks lower, her small fists pressed against burning cheeks as cruel laughter cuts through the heat. That piece of junk belongs in a scrapyard. The words slice deeper than the summer air. But this truck holds more than shame and broken dreams. Buried beneath scratched paint and faded memories lies a secret that will shatter everything they think they know. Catherine steps from her midnight green black Porsche, designer heels clicking against hot asphalt, her eyes locked on the battered vehicle with an intensity that defies explanation. She has no idea she's walking toward a truth that will rewrite both their stories. Daniel wipes his forehead with the back of his sleeve, leaving a streak of grease across sun-weathered skin. The engine refuses to turn over, just like his luck these past 3 years. Since Sarah died, everything seems to break down at the worst possible moments. The grocery bags in the truck bed hold Emma's favorite cereal and the cheapest cuts of meat he could find. Purchases that already stretched this week's budget thin. He can feel the stares of other shoppers, their judgment as heavy as the Texas heat pressing down on his shoulders. Emma slides lower in the passenger seat, her school backpack clutched against her chest like armor. She remembers when other kids used to ask for rides in Daddy's truck, back when Mommy was alive and everything felt normal. Now the truck is just another reminder of how different their family has become. The laughter from the group of men in business suits grows louder, their comments sharper. One of them points directly at the rusted wheel wells, making exaggerated gestures while his companions nod in agreement. Catherine approaches with measured steps, her designer outfit a stark contrast to Daniel's worn jeans and faded work shirt. She stops just close enough to see the small details others miss. The truck may be old, but the interior is spotless. Every surface has been carefully maintained. Loved even. Her fingers trace the air above a peculiar weld mark on the rear bumper, a small letter M worked into the metal with artistic precision. Something about that mark sends a chill down her spine, despite the blazing afternoon heat. The men in suits notice Catherine's approach and immediately shift their tone, suddenly eager to impress the obviously wealthy woman. "Ma'am, you might want to stay back," one calls out with fake concern. "That old death trap might leak something on your beautiful dress." They chuckle at their own wit, completely unaware that their target audience has zero interest in their performance. Catherine doesn't even acknowledge their existence, her attention entirely focused on Daniel and the truck that seems hauntingly familiar. Daniel looks up as Catherine's shadow falls across the engine bay, expecting another round of mockery or perhaps some well-meaning but condescending offer of help. Instead, he finds himself looking into eyes that hold genuine concern rather than pity. "Need a hand?" she asks simply, her voice carrying none of the judgment he's grown accustomed to hearing. There's something else in her tone, too, something he can't quite identify. Recognition, maybe, though he's certain they've never met before. Emma peeks over the dashboard, curiosity overcoming embarrassment. The pretty lady doesn't look like she belongs in a parking lot helping with broken trucks. But there's something gentle about the way she stands, something that reminds Emma of how Mommy used to approach hurt animals. The men in suits seem less important now, their laughter fading into background noise as something more significant unfolds. Catherine glances through the window and offers Emma a small smile, the kind that reaches all the way to her eyes. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly as Daniel considers Catherine's offer. Pride wars with desperation in his chest. He's spent 3 years learning to handle everything alone, refusing help that might come with strings attached or hidden agendas. But something about this woman feels different, safer somehow. "It's probably just the alternator," he says finally, his voice rough from the heat and embarrassment. "Been meaning to replace it, just haven't had the chance." They both know it's about money, not time, but Catherine doesn't press the obvious lie. Catherine steps closer to examine the engine, her movements confident and knowledgeable in a way that surprises Daniel. She points to a loose connection near the battery terminal, her manicured fingers steady despite never having worked on cars professionally. "Try this first," she suggests, producing a small tool from her purse that seems oddly out of place among lipstick and credit cards. Her knowledge runs deeper than casual observation, rooted in memories of countless hours spent in a garage that smelled of motor oil and dreams. But those are memories she keeps buried, locked away in a past that doesn't match her current life. The engine turns over on the first try, purring to life with a sound that brings visible relief to Daniel's face. Emma bounces in her seat, clapping her hands together with pure joy. The men in suits look genuinely disappointed that their entertainment has ended so anticlimactically. Catherine steps back, brushing her hands together with satisfaction, but her eyes never leave the truck. There's something about this particular vehicle that calls to her, though she can't quite understand why. All she knows is that walking away feels impossible. Daniel wants to thank her properly, maybe offer to buy her coffee or something, but the words stick in his throat. Women like Catherine don't have coffee with men like him. They exist in different worlds, separated by education and opportunity and all the invisible barriers that money creates. Instead, he settles for a simple thank you, hoping it conveys even half of what he's feeling. But as Catherine walks back toward her Porsche, something passes between them, a connection neither fully understands yet can't quite dismiss. 3 days later, Daniel finds himself at Sunset Diner with Emma, sharing a stack of pancakes they can't really afford but desperately need. The diner serves as their weekend tradition, a small luxury Sarah used to insist on before hospital bills consumed their savings. Emma chatters about school and friends, while Daniel nurses black coffee and pretends the stack of overdue bills in his truck doesn't exist. The familiar routine provides comfort, even as everything else in their lives feels uncertain and temporary. Catherine enters the diner alone, scanning the room with the practiced eye of someone accustomed to being noticed. She spots Daniel and Emma immediately, though she tries to convince herself it's pure coincidence. The truth is, she's been thinking about the parking lot encounter for 3 straight days, unable to shake the feeling that she's missing something important. The truck, the way Daniel handled himself under pressure, even the careful way he protected his daughter's feelings, all of it feels connected to something buried deep in her past. Emma knocks over her orange juice, the sticky liquid spreading across the table in a bright pool that threatens to drip onto her favorite dress. Tears well up in her eyes as embarrassment floods her cheeks pink. Before Daniel can react, Catherine appears at their table with a handful of napkins, her movements quick and natural as she helps clean up the mess. "Accidents happen to everyone," she tells Emma gently, her voice carrying the wisdom of someone who understands shame and vulnerability intimately. Daniel watches Catherine interact with his daughter, noting how easily Emma responds to her gentle encouragement. There's no condescension in Catherine's manner, no obvious attempt to impress or manipulate. She treats Emma like a real person worthy of respect, something many adults fail to do with children. "I'm Daniel," he says finally, extending a hand that's clean but permanently stained with years of honest work. "This is Emma." The introduction feels both necessary and insufficient, marking the beginning of something neither of them fully understands yet. Catherine accepts his handshake, her smooth palm briefly connecting with his calloused one. "Catherine," she replies simply, settling into the booth across from them as if she belongs there. Emma immediately launches into a detailed explanation of why orange juice is superior to apple juice, a topic that Catherine treats with appropriate seriousness. Watching them together, Daniel feels something shift in his chest, a loosening of the tight control he's maintained since Sarah's death. For the first time in years, his daughter is giggling with someone new. The conversation flows easier than it should between strangers from obviously different backgrounds. Catherine asks about Emma's school and hobbies with genuine interest, while Daniel finds himself sharing more than he intended about his work as a welder and his dreams of creating art from scrap metal. Catherine's responses reveal unexpected depth, knowledge about metalworking and craftsmanship that seems incongruous with her polished appearance. She mentions her father in passing, something about understanding the value of working with your hands, but doesn't elaborate. As they prepare to leave, Catherine surprises them both by asking to see Daniel's artwork. The request catches him off guard because most people assume welding and art are mutually exclusive, especially when the welder drives a broken-down truck and counts every dollar twice. But something in Catherine's expression suggests she might actually understand the difference between craft and creation. Emma immediately volunteers to give Catherine a tour, her enthusiasm infectious and impossible to refuse. The drive to Daniel's house reveals the careful boundaries of their separate worlds. Catherine follows in her Porsche, the luxury vehicle looking absurdly out of place in the working-class neighborhood where Daniel rents a small house with an even smaller garage. But when she steps inside his makeshift studio, her reaction erases any concern about appearances. The space may be cramped and poorly lit, but it's filled with beauty that transcends its humble surrounding. This is where something magical begins to unfold. Daniel's garage studio defies every expectation Catherine might have had about amateur art. Delicate metal birds seem to float from the ceiling, their wings captured in mid-flight with stunning precision. A garden of steel roses blooms along one wall, each petal hammered and shaped by hand until they rival nature's own perfection. But it's the unfinished piece in the center that takes her breath away. A tree of life that speaks to universal themes of growth, loss, and renewal. This isn't hobby work or weekend tinkering. This is art that deserves recognition. Emma bounces between the sculptures, narrating their creation with 8-year-old enthusiasm. "Daddy made the birds after Mommy went to heaven," she explains matter-of-factly, pointing to a particularly graceful swan. "He said Mommy always wanted to fly, so now she can watch us from up there." The casual mention of loss hits Catherine unexpectedly hard, reminding her of her own father's death and the dreams that died with him. She finds herself blinking back tears she hasn't shed in years. Catherine studies each piece with growing amazement, her trained eye recognizing technical skill that rivals anything she's seen in expensive galleries. The work speaks of pain transformed into beauty, of finding hope in discarded materials. More than that, it reveals an artist who understands life's fundamental truth, that broken things can be made whole again, sometimes even more beautiful than before. But Daniel's talent is trapped in this garage, unknown and unrecognized by a world that judges worth by appearances rather than substance. Daniel watches Catherine examine his work, searching her face for signs of polite disinterest or patronizing praise. Instead, he sees genuine emotion, tears she's trying hard to hide. "They're just a hobby," he says defensively, the automatic response of someone who's learned not to dream too big. But Catherine shakes her head firmly, turning to face him with an intensity that makes his heart skip. "This isn't hobby work, Daniel. This is real art. These pieces belong in galleries, not hidden away in a garage." The words hit Daniel like a physical blow because they echo Sarah's voice, her constant encouragement to believe in himself and his abilities. But Sarah is gone, and with her went his confidence that art could ever be more than an expensive distraction from reality. Bills don't pay themselves, and Emma needs stability more than she needs a father who chases impossible dreams. Catherine seems to understand his internal struggle because she doesn't push, doesn't offer empty encouragement or unrealistic promises. She simply sees what's there and acknowledges its value. As Catherine prepares to leave, she pauses at the garage entrance, looking back at the transformed space one more time. There's something about this place, about Daniel's work, that connects to memories she thought she'd buried. The smell of metal and oil, the careful attention to detail, the pride in craftsmanship regardless of recognition or reward, it all feels familiar in a way that makes her chest tight with longing for something she can't quite name. But understanding will have to wait, because some truths are too dangerous to examine too closely. Over the following weeks, chance encounters become something more intentional. Catherine finds reasons to drive by the diner on Saturday mornings, while Daniel discovers new routes that happen to pass by prestigious car dealerships. Emma orchestrates some of these meetings with the innocent cunning of a child who recognizes that the nice lady makes her daddy smile in ways she hasn't seen since Mommy got sick. None of them acknowledge the obvious pattern, preferring to maintain the fiction of coincidence. Their conversations reveal layers neither expected to find. Catherine demonstrates knowledge of automotive mechanics that surprises Daniel, casually mentioning details about engine repair that suggest hands-on experience. When pressed, she deflects with vague references to growing up around cars, but her expertise runs deeper than casual exposure. Daniel, meanwhile, reveals dreams that extend far beyond survival, visions of public art installations and community workshops where others might discover their own creative potential. Emma serves as an unwitting catalyst, her innocent questions revealing truths the adults work hard to conceal. When she asks Catherine about her family, the careful pause before answering speaks volumes. When she mentions missing her mommy to Catherine, the immediate tears in the woman's eyes suggest similar losses. The three of them begin to form an unlikely family unit, bound together by shared understanding of life's fragility and the strength required to continue moving forward. Catherine's world starts shifting in subtle ways. She finds herself questioning decisions that once seemed obvious, wondering why she chose expensive restaurants over simple diners, formal art galleries over genuine creativity. Her success feels increasingly hollow when measured against Daniel's quiet dignity and Emma's uncomplicated joy. But acknowledging these feelings means confronting choices she's made and bridges she's burned, truths that threaten the carefully constructed identity she's built over the past 5 years. The revelation begins innocently enough, with Emma asking Catherine about her childhood pets. The question triggers a cascade of memories Catherine has worked hard to suppress, images of a different life, in a different world, where hands got dirty and dreams seemed possible. She mentions a cat named Motor, who lived in her father's garage, then catches herself before revealing too much. But the slip is enough to plant seeds of curiosity in Daniel's mind. Questions about the woman who knows so much about cars, yet owns a dealership selling luxury vehicles. Daniel starts noticing details he initially missed. Small things that suggest Catherine's polished exterior might be hiding a more complex truth. Her hands know tools despite perfect manicures. She understands mechanical problems with intuitive accuracy. Most telling of all, she treats his truck with a reverence that goes beyond mere politeness, running her fingers along surfaces as if touching something sacred. The mystery deepens with each encounter, but Daniel hesitates to push for answers that might shatter their fragile connection. Catherine finds herself studying Daniel's truck with increasing fascination, drawn to details that feel familiar despite their obvious impossibility. The proportions, the way light hits certain angles, even the sound of the engine all trigger memories she can't quite access. But it's the small weld mark on the rear bumper that haunts her dreams. A tiny letter M that seems to pulse with significance whenever she's not looking directly at it. Logic says it's coincidence, but her heart insists otherwise. The confrontation arrives unexpectedly, triggered by Daniel's growing suspicion that their meetings aren't as accidental as Catherine pretends. He notices her car near his neighborhood too often, catches her watching him with an intensity that suggests prior knowledge rather than developing interest. The revelation that she's been seeking him out rather than simply enjoying his company hits harder than it should, touching every insecurity he's carried since Sarah's death about his worth and desirability as a partner. "You've been following us," Daniel says during their next coffee shop encounter, his voice carefully controlled, but Emma still looks up from her coloring book with alarm. Catherine's immediate flush confirms his suspicion even as she struggles for an explanation that won't reveal everything. The conversation happens in careful whispers, both adults trying to protect Emma from the adult complications threatening to destroy her newfound happiness. But children understand more than parents realize, and Emma senses the shift even if she can't name it. Catherine's half-truths only deepen Daniel's suspicion that she's treating him and Emma like charity cases, wealthy woman's guilt manifesting as attention to the poor but deserving family. The possibility cuts deep because it transforms every genuine moment into manipulation, every kindness into condescension. He'd been down this road before, with well-meaning people who wanted to help the widowed father and his tragic daughter, relationships that lasted until the novelty wore off and real life intruded. But Catherine's distress seems genuine. Her struggle to explain without revealing too much suggesting complicated motives rather than simple guilt or boredom. She mentions her father again, something about understanding loss and the importance of preserving things that matter. The words don't form a complete picture, but they hint at experiences that might parallel his own grief and determination. Daniel finds his anger softening despite his determination to maintain protective distance. Emma, meanwhile, watches the adults dance around truths she can sense but not understand. Her solution is characteristically direct. She asks Catherine point blank why she seems sad whenever she looks at their truck. The question catches both adults off guard because children see things differently, noticing emotions rather than explanations. Catherine's tears in response to Emma's innocent inquiry reveal depths of feeling that can't be faked or manufactured for effect. The crisis escalates when Richard Blackwood appears at Daniel's garage unannounced, his expensive suit and casual arrogance marking him as someone accustomed to getting what he wants. He's heard about Daniel's work through unnamed sources and wants to buy everything, offering a sum that would solve Daniel's immediate financial problems while completely destroying his artistic integrity. The timing feels too convenient, the connection too obvious to ignore. Someone has been talking about his work, and Catherine is the only person with the connections to reach collectors like Richard. Daniel's accusation erupts with 3 years of suppressed frustration and pain. Catherine's betrayal feels worse than simple mockery because she made him believe, for a brief moment, that someone might value his work for itself, rather than as an object of pity or investment. The confrontation happens in the garage, surrounded by his art, making every word feel like a desecration of the sacred space he's created. Emma witnesses more than she should, adding guilt to Daniel's anger and confusion to Catherine's heartbreak. Catherine tries to explain, but the words come out wrong, tangled up in emotions she's not ready to acknowledge, or truths she's not prepared to reveal. Her protests sound weak even to her own ears, because how can she explain seeking him out without admitting why? How can she justify her interests without revealing the connection that brought them together? The partial truths only make things worse, confirming Daniel's suspicions while revealing nothing that might justify her behavior. The breakup is swift and brutal, years of careful emotional walls reconstructing themselves in minutes. Daniel throws Richard's business card at Catherine's feet, telling her to take her guilt money and charity connections somewhere else. He doesn't need anyone's pity, especially not disguised as friendship or something deeper. Emma cries as Catherine leaves, but Daniel's own pain makes him incapable of comforting anyone else. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some trust can't be rebuilt. Catherine drives away knowing she's lost something irreplaceable, but pride and fear prevent her from turning back with the whole truth. The secrets she's kept seem less important now than the damage they've caused, but some revelations require perfect timing and careful preparation. By the time she finds the courage to try again, Daniel has already built new walls around his heart and Emma's trust. The moment for easy explanations has passed, leaving only the hard path of earned redemption. 3 days after their explosive confrontation, Daniel attempts to prove his independence by walking to the grocery store instead of risking another breakdown with his truck. The 2-mile journey becomes a statement of principle rather than practicality, his pride demanding he need nothing from anyone. But pride doesn't prevent accidents, and the distracted driver who runs the red light doesn't care about Daniel's determination to handle everything alone. The impact sends him sprawling across hot asphalt, consciousness fading as concerned voices call for ambulances. Emma's phone call to Catherine comes from muscle memory rather than conscious decision. The 8-year-old finds Catherine's number in her father's contacts and dials without considering the complications of adult anger and hurt feelings. "Miss Catherine, Daddy's in the hospital," she whispers through tears, the words carrying more weight than her small voice should have to bear. Catherine drops everything, her Porsche eating up miles between her office and the emergency room where her heart waits in pieces. The hospital waiting room becomes neutral ground, where old hurts seem less important than immediate need. Catherine arrives to find Emma alone, too young to understand medical terminology or navigate hospital bureaucracy. The little girl launches herself into Catherine's arms with complete trust, seeking comfort from the one adult who feels safe and familiar. Catherine holds her close, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence, while her own heart breaks for what they've all lost. Daniel wakes to find Catherine asleep in the chair beside his bed, Emma curled up in her lap like a trusting kitten. The scene hits him harder than the accident, revealing truths about connection and caring that anger couldn't completely destroy. Catherine's presence here, despite everything he said, despite the way he sent her away, suggests motivations more complex than guilt or charity. Maybe he's been wrong about her reasons, wrong about what brought them together in the first place. The conversation that follows unfolds in careful whispers, mindful of Emma's fragile sleep and the weight of words that can't be taken back. Catherine's explanation comes in pieces, each revelation more stunning than the last. The truck, she finally admits, once belonged to her father. She's been searching for it, for him, for 5 years, but what she found was so much more than she expected. A family that reminded her of who she used to be before success changed everything. Her father, Robert Mitchell, was a mechanic who specialized in restoring classic trucks. The 1995 Ford F150 was his personal project, the vehicle he planned to drive in retirement. But cancer arrived before retirement, medical bills consuming savings faster than insurance could cover. Selling the truck broke his heart, but keeping his daughter in college mattered more than personal attachment. He died believing he'd failed, never knowing his sacrifice enabled Catherine's eventual success. Daniel listens to Catherine's story with growing understanding, pieces of a puzzle he didn't know he was solving finally clicking into place. His truck, their truck, carries more history than he ever imagined. Sarah's father bought it from Robert during the old man's final weeks, drawn by its obvious care and maintenance despite the seller's obvious reluctance to let it go. The connection spans generations, linking families through shared appreciation for honest craftsmanship and enduring value. Catherine's success story takes on new meaning as she explains her path from mechanic's daughter to dealership owner. The climb required abandoning parts of herself she thought were weaknesses, trading authenticity for acceptance in a world that valued image over substance. But meeting Daniel and seeing his art reminded her of her father's garage, of the satisfaction that comes from creating rather than simply selling. She's been living someone else's dream while her own heart remained buried with her father. The small letter M melded onto the truck's bumper serves as Robert's signature, his mark of ownership and pride in work well done. Catherine has traced that letter with her finger countless times over the past weeks, each touch connecting her to memories of childhood afternoons spent watching her father work. The truck became her grail, the physical link to a past she'd abandoned in pursuit of a future that left her feeling empty, despite its material rewards. Daniel's accident forces all of them to confront the fragility of connection and the cost of stubborn pride. Emma's immediate trust in Catherine reveals wisdom beyond her years, understanding that some bonds transcend adult complications and hurt feelings. The little girl serves as bridge between two hearts that want to reconnect, but don't know how to move past the pain they've caused each other. Her simple faith in love's ability to overcome obstacles shames the adults into reconsidering their positions. Catherine's revelation reframes everything that's happened between them, transforming perceived manipulation into desperate searching for connection with her past. Her interest in Daniel's art becomes more than wealthy woman's appreciation for quaint hobbies. It's recognition of the creative spirit her father possessed and she thought she'd lost. The truck isn't just transportation. It's a physical link to the man who shaped her values before the world taught her to hide them. The hospital room becomes confessional as Catherine admits her loneliness, the emptiness that success couldn't fill and money couldn't cure. Building a luxury car dealership made business sense, but felt like betraying everything her father stood for. Meeting Daniel reminded her that authenticity still existed, that people could choose substance over surface, even when the world rewarded the opposite. His art represents everything she'd abandoned in pursuit of others' approval. Daniel's own confession comes harder because admitting need requires vulnerability he's avoided since Sarah's death. Catherine's presence in his and Emma's lives filled gaps he didn't know existed, brought laughter and possibility back into days that had become merely survivable. Her knowledge of cars and appreciation for craftsmanship suggested understanding he'd never expected to find, especially not from someone whose life seemed so different from his own. Emma wakes to find the adults talking quietly, their voices carrying hope instead of anger for the first time in days. Her sleepy question about whether Catherine will stay cuts through remaining pretense and forces both hearts to acknowledge what they've been avoiding. The little girl's happiness depends partly on the connections she's formed, but more than that, she's learned to recognize love in its various forms, and knows when she's witnessing something worth fighting for. The letter Catherine produces from her purse has traveled with her for 5 years. Her father's final words about the truck and the hope that someday she might understand why he had to let it go. Robert's message is simple but profound. Objects matter less than the people who treasure them. And sometimes love means letting go so others can experience the joy you can no longer afford. The truck was meant to find a family who would appreciate its value beyond mere transportation. 6 months later, Daniel's garage has transformed into something Robert Mitchell would recognize and approve. The space combines working garage with art studio, practical repairs funding creative projects, while Catherine's business connections provide market access for pieces worthy of wider recognition. But success feels different this time, rooted in authenticity rather than image, connected to community rather than isolated by wealth. Catherine's dealership has evolved too, becoming Mitchell & Son Motors, in honor of her father and the new life she's building with Daniel and Emma. The business model balances practical, used car sales with showcase space for local artists, proving that commerce and creativity can coexist when guided by values deeper than pure profit. The name connects past to present while acknowledging the family they're becoming together. Emma adapts to their blended life with the resilience of childhood, accepting love in its many forms without requiring legal documents or social conventions to validate what feels real. She calls Catherine by her first name but treats her like family, understanding that mothers can come in different shapes and timings while still honoring the memory of the woman who gave her life. Her happiness becomes the measure of their success. The truck still serves as their primary transportation, its reliability proven by years of careful maintenance and repair. But now it carries different meaning, representing connection rather than limitation, history rather than embarrassment. Neighbors who once mocked its appearance now understand its significance, drawn by the story of love that transcends economic boundaries and social expectations. Daniel's art finds new outlets through Catherine's connections, but more importantly through community workshops, where he teaches others to transform discarded materials into beauty. The sessions provide income while fulfilling deeper purpose, passing on skills while proving that creativity isn't limited by education or background. His success becomes template for others seeking authentic expression in a world that often rewards imitation over innovation. Sunday mornings find them at Sunset Diner, their regular table a study in contentment rather than resignation. Emma chatters about school while Catherine and Daniel plan their week, comfortable silences punctuating easy conversation. The waitress knows their orders and their story, part of a community that's learned to celebrate love in all its forms rather than judging relationships by conventional standards. The final art piece Daniel completes tells their story in metal and memory, a tree whose roots draw strength from difficult soil while branches reach toward light. Each element represents part of their journey, broken pieces reformed into beauty, individual components becoming stronger through connection, growth that honors the past while embracing possibility. The sculpture will occupy a place of honor in their shared space, visible reminder of love's ability to heal and transform. Catherine's reflection on their journey acknowledges mistakes and missed opportunities alongside the miracle of second chances. Meeting Daniel and Emma reminded her that success means different things to different people, and that her father's definition might be more reliable than society's. The truck brought them together, but choice keeps them connected, through daily decisions to choose love over fear, understanding over judgment. As evening light filters through the garage windows, 3 figures work together on their separate projects while sharing the same space and dreams. Emma practices sketching, while Catherine organizes business papers, and Daniel puts finishing touches on a commission piece. The ordinariness of the moment makes it sacred, proof that happily ever after doesn't require dramatic gestures, just consistent choice to build something beautiful together. The 1995 Ford F150 sits in the driveway, its engine quiet but ready for whatever tomorrow might bring. Under the hood, Robert Mitchell's careful work continues to serve a family that understands value beyond appearance, love beyond circumstance. Sometimes the most precious gifts come disguised as ordinary things, waiting for the right people to recognize their true worth and give them the home.